Alrighty kids, if you are watching this video, you have moved on and you're ready to build the projects needed to determine and to learn how to measure area using KNEX. Okay, so your first project is going to involve the red connector and yellow rod, and then another yellow rod and another red connector. Then what we'll do is we'll add a red connector up here and a yellow rod up here. Then a yellow rod right here and a yellow rod right there. Okay? So this is the first project you're going to make. Not very exciting, not very fascinating, just a plain old square. Alright? So we'll put that down right there. The next project you're going to build is going to start out like this with a white connector and then a white rod. Then a white connector and a red rod. And then a green connector put on like that, and a white rod put on like that. And then close it off with the green connector attaching to both. Okay? So that's what you have, right? So you have these two items, all right? Now, these items are going to teach you how to find the area of a KNEX shape, all right? Now, we know that in order to find area, area is based on the following formula, okay? Area equals length times width. Okay? In order to find area, you have to multiply length times width. Alright? And sometimes the length and the width are given to you, and other times you have to measure them. Now, this formula applies to squares and to rectangles, but not to triangles, okay? And not to irregular shaped polygons. But you can use this to find the area of a lot of different shapes if you break everything down into either squares or rectangles, okay? Or triangles. So anyways, let's take a look at how we actually go about finding area for KNEX shapes, all right? Now, the first thing that you'll do is you will measure. You need to figure out the length and the width, okay? Now, in order to do this, when you measure your KNEX, you can't, you kind of have edges here that are hard to measure. And so you're going to round when you estimate, okay? Now, my advice is this, because on some KNEX structures, you don't have nice, easy sides to measure like this right here. When you measure this, you can line up your 0 over here, and then you can measure. Now, in this case, the edge of the red, from the edge of the red, which is 0 right here, you have 0, and then you have centimeters. You have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 centimeters to here, and then you have 11 right here. 11 is right in the center of the yellow rod. So you could get real precise and go to the nearest tenth of a centimeter, but in this case you'd want to measure out to the edge of this red because that's what you measured to over here, and it's not that big of a deal. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure from the red, outside of the red, to the outside of the red. So in this case, if you can't really see it on this ruler, but when you measure it, it comes out to 11.5 centimeters, okay? So we could say that in this case, our length is going to be 11.5 centimeters, okay? So now we want to figure out the width. Now, in this case, this is a square. So we know that if we measure, all right, we have our length. If we measure our width, it should come out to 11 5/10. So we line up the 0 down here, and we measure all the way up to the edge right here, and when we look at it, again, it points out that it is 11 5/10 of a centimeter. So if you get within 5/10 of a centimeter, 11.5, so your readings are going to be either 11, 11.5, or 12. Nothing in between is really going to make a difference because we are just measuring and estimating as precise as we can get. All right, so again, this is 11 5/10. Okay, so now you have to take those, and in order to figure out the area, you have to multiply 11 5/10 times 11 5/10. And that will give you the area in square centimeters. And to make sure that you write square centimeters with a little 2 up here, because that says the number of square centimeters, okay? So when you write your answer, you write it with a CM2, all right? And remember, you're either rounding to the nearest whole centimeter or half of a centimeter, which would be 0.5, all right? Now, on occasion, you will get something that looks like this. Now, when you go to measure this, and you want to find the area of this basic rectangle right here, okay, you're not going to measure way out here to the edge of the connector. It just wouldn't make any sense. Nor would you measure out here, because that's going to give you a bigger area than you really have. All you really want is the area formed by the rods, okay, right through here. So when you have a situation like that, what you want to measure to is from rod to rod, outside of the rod to the outside of the rod. So in other words, you would put 0, the edge of this rod right here, you would put on 0. And then you'd measure across to this rod right here and see where your mark ends on the edge of that rod right there. So in this case, when I measure it, I see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and there's 16. It doesn't go to 16. It stops right there at 15 and a half. So my length for this would be 15 and a half centimeters. Okay, so that's my length. And then we know our formula is length times width. So now my width, okay, is going to be from the red rod to the red rod, outside to outside. So when I measure that, put my ruler on there, and because it's a rectangle, it's parallel, so I can measure here, here, here. I'm just going to put it right there, because it's easily enough to measure. And when I hold that in place, I have 0 right there on the edge of the red rod, and then I'm going to measure across to the other edge, the outside edge of the red rod. So we're going from outside edge to outside edge. Now, it just so happens that in this case, from outside edge to outside edge, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it comes out at 6 centimeters exactly, okay? So now I can write down and I can say, okay, I have a length of 15 5/10 of a centimeter and 6 centimeters. So now I could just do my multiplication and come up with the number of square centimeters. Okay? And that's how you find the area of a KNEX shape. Okay? Alrighty. Well, what you're going to do now is you're going to actually complete a quiz about area. And if you get the quiz correct, you're going to move on and you're going to build some stuff for your crane.